Good evening, everyone. We have esteemed planner here, and on the role on AI and ML, and analytics is something we are going to talk about. We will be starting the session with few basics for the understanding also, and accordingly we'll pick up the questions as the time permits. What we'll try to cover in the session will be the AI ML and analytics and how it is going to help analytics to build the use cases which have been there. To give a context, we also have had discussion on account aggregator, right, where we saw that how the data is being pulled. Now we are moving to the next stage, that the data is available, how the use cases are built on top of that, and how it is changing all the credit perspective from the being a sustainable credit nowadays. Yeah, so with that context, we will start the session with Amol. Amol would like to understand from you about the data science basics and what are the building blocks that organizations should consider while building an AI, ML and analytics use cases. Yeah.
So I think first of all, thanks to Digital Fifth for the fantastic event and inviting me to the panel. I think being a product guy, I'll just start with customer and what they need from lenders. I think the first thing customer needs is that they need their loans. And when I say customer, it is the SME customers that we serve at NeoGrowth. They need their loans disbursed fast, right? And expectation is 70% of them expect that their loan should be disbursed within 7 days, or for the SME customer. The second thing that they need is that the involvement in the entire loan process should be minimal, right? They should spend less time in the application process, because every hour they are spending in the application process, it is taking time out from their core business. So I think that is the second thing. And of course, the most important thing is that they expect themselves to be fairly assessed, adequately financed, etc., etc. Now, over the last 2-3 years, what has happened is that lot of data is getting generated, available on tap. You have account aggregator, KYC, GST integrations, etc. So availability of data is really a boon to serve all this customer needs. I think the second block that is needed to effectively address the need of the customer is how to use that data meaningfully. And that is the crux of where the AI ML model, the topic for the evening, on how can we apply intelligence to the data and make adequate use of it. So in my mind, to make the most out of the available data, there are 3 prerequisites for an organization. The first one, the 3 essentially are that you should have a robust data management framework. Second is that you should have a culture and data culture and a skill set of managing and interpreting data. And third is that you need a strong data governance model. So when I say data management, what does that mean? First is that the data should be available, stored in a way that it could be easily retrieved, and reliable, so that you can rely on that data to build models. I think most of the mature organizations today are faltering at this step, right? Because when they start building an data science model, the first thing that they grapple with, the data is not accurate, or it is not stored well, there's only partial data, etc., etc. So I think and this is a mindset that organizations should start with, because every product that you design, every process that you change, every system that you implement, the idea should be, data should be seen as one of the prerequisites of all the requirements that you gather, right? If you're having a new product, you will have the key, data point stored, but do you need any peripheral data point that you should start storing at point A, and before you even start, selling this product? So I think the first point, I think the most important one, and it is so obvious but gets missed, is having data. I think without that, you cannot do anything. The second thing is, data culture and the skill set. By data culture, I mean that, there should be an organizational intention to move away from subjectivity and bring in objectivity, and data should be used more and more. And it's not easy, right? When you start, there's always apprehension. No, I have 15-year experience and he's saying something and data is showing otherwise. Is the data correct? Not so you have to take those small risks and start somewhere. So I think that is very important. Second is data should be democratically available to teams. It should not be a pull system. I think it should be there when needed. And yeah, the other piece that is critical from a skills and from a team and culture perspective is the right skill set. So you should have statisticians, engineers, product guys together in a room, and most importantly, they should be thinking of business outcomes than how beautifully the case of the models stacks up, right? What is the use case? How am I going to use it? For example, I mean, suppose you're building a customer service model, and the data scientist is very happy that it is 95% accurate. And the immediate question that one may ask is, what about the 5% of the customers who will be disgruntled after this? So these things have to be thought through in a holistic manner. The third piece is on the data governance piece. I think again, this is again a very critical piece. I think first, when you check first two, getting this right is important for any future risk that you can encounter by using data, right? By data governance first, I think when you use data science model, I think as the model starts maturing or becoming sophisticated, what happens is it has tremendous predictive power. So it can discriminate and tell you what is good and what is bad. But it may have limited explanatory power. You will see that a variable ranks highly and correlates to the outcome, but you don't know why at times. And that's a big challenge because regulators will increasingly ask, is your model discriminating someone on certain basis, etc. And you should be able to bridge that. The other thing about data governance or the model governance is that it's a continuum. So a model development is a continuum, right? It's an iterative process. You start with first model, you iterate, and then it is perfected over a cycle. So you should have a strong validation and validation mechanism for your models. Also, how you embed it as a part of your business decision making is also important. Maybe start small, do a pilot, have a champion challenger, and then so that you mitigate large form of business or financial risk because of an inaccurate model or a learning model. So I think broadly these are the thoughts on what are the prerequisite to build a great data science organization.
Yeah, great, thanks. My next question will be to Vimal. Vimal, you have been, you're in experience as a chief business officer with Fibe, right? And in Fibe, you must have seen use cases around it, and you must have also seen a few of the regulatory aspects. So, I wanted you to just to touch upon on those aspects, that how AIML and analytics is on the regulatory side, how it is supporting there also.
Yeah, thanks. I think so. It is really fantastic to be in front of all of you. So I think so. Analytics and the AI is very, very loosely. I mean to say, even someone says today that I am automating a process. That is also a AI use of AI, right? So just to set the context, like we are a fully digital organization. So we disburse the loan within 2 minutes. And so data becomes a very, very important factor in day-to-day business for us. And the way we use the data is definitely in different ways, right from the marketing, like which customer segment to market, which customer segment to go after, to credit underwriting, primarily which customers, how do I underwrite the customer. So we have built definitely the broad use case for AI ML is more on the credit side as of now, but more and more use cases are also coming in the marketing side. Because in the lending first, the credit becomes a very, very important factor to really look upon. We built a lot of models using AI and ML. Techniques for the credit assessment of the customers, and and then the other portion is also how do you manage the customer. It is not about one-time customer underwriting. You keep looking at the customers through the life cycle of the customers, right from the repayment, right from the how you manage the customer experience overall. So we have been doing a lot of stuff on the entire customer life cycle management in terms of the collection, because lending is also about the collection, right? So which customers, how to go after to the customer, which channel to use. So a lot of things like, just to give an example, today we use a lot of voice analytics. So like a lot of customer calls us, for some or other issues now, or we also call them whenever they default, like the 5 days, 10 days default. So we are able to predict a lot of time, like, the way the customer speaks to us, the way like the customer interact with us through various channels, more about the risk as well as the credit assessment, as well as whether he's going to repay on time, whether he's not going to repay on time. The other example is like, because we take selfie from the customers, it's a live selfie, right? So many times, the kind of, expression which customer gives while he's taking selfie. So we have been able to, build a lot of use cases around, this as well. And then also one another use case is how he interacts, because we are only mobile app first company. It is fully digital, right? So how he interacts with our mobile app, either how many times he clicks, go up, go out, and come in, and all of that also gives a lot of behavior about the customers in terms of both from where do we spend efforts to go after the customers, and whether to go after that customer or not, also about the credit behavior. So these are the few of the use cases which we have been using in terms of the AI and ML, how we are using. To your next question in terms of
It was related to regulations. What are the regulation that needs to be?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think so. See, the Data Protection Act, which is still under build, and there has been a lot of talk around that. See, at the end of the day, data is available in plenty with many of us, right? How do we use, and how to build the model? Even like today, at least in US, you can't build a model without explaining why a variable is there, and there are certain exclusion, like you can't have the some of the variables like religion or some of them, right? So even in India, RBI, whenever they come up for audit, doing the audit, they definitely check what kind of variables are there as a part of your model, right? And how that affects your decisioning in terms of the decisioning, right? So so that's one, definitely, in terms of like at least wherever you are taking a decision on the customers in terms of granting a credit or not, you can't, I want to say, still, you can't be a black box kind of things. We don't know whether which variable, because of which variable we are not giving out a credit to the customer. So explainability is one factor which is an important fact from the regulation perspective. The data privacy definitely is one. The customer acceptance in terms of letting the customer know what data we are taking and how we are going to use that data becomes a very important. And once this the data protection bill comes, I'm sure the lot of time we may have to figure out how to take the consent of the customers and make them aware about how we are going to use those data in the life cycle of the customers. I think so. These are the very high level regulatory framework around using the AI and ML. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. My next question will be to you, Amit. Being in technologies and running a business also, I would like to understand from you that considering the life cycle management, just as Vimal mentioned, what are the different use cases you see which will be upcoming? What are your experiences so far which you have built on the use cases that if you can share that?
I'll try my best. First of all, again, thanks for having me here, and very, very happy to be here. My articulation of the role of AI ML, uh, whichever industry we choose to be in, and we are going to focus on credit, is that we are talking about some sort of, imagine a triangle of sorts. Your first point is what I would call the interface. You know, like I think Vimal was mentioning, they're a digital first company, so mobile is the way they kind of decided to interact with the customer. I don't think that same interface 100% applies to the way you would have approached your MSME and SME customers. So there might have been tablets and websites and stuff that is required, but there's an interface. The normal genesis, the second generation is about intelligent interfaces, right? So there was a time when the website was a way of only collecting information, right? The second stage happened when we started talking about journeys, orchestrating, scenarios, giving decisions, real time, 2 minutes, 3-minute loans, whatever you want to call it. Then you are talking about artificial intelligent interfaces. Now, we are not yet there for most part of it, because in a regulatory landscape, you have to control the experiences that you are able to deliver. We can't just lose, think of it as a driverless car. You can't lose control. You can't give up the control of the steering wheel to say, let the car drive wherever it feels like driving. Let it reject whoever it feels like rejecting. So there are several controls built in the way AI use cases are designed currently. And of course, when again I go back to the triangle of, the first part I was talking about was interfaces, intelligent, artificially intelligent. The other two dots, the vertices are about data and about algorithms. So all these interfaces have evolved in the amount of data they collect and that we can process, and the kind of algorithmic interventions that are possible today. The extent of which is, there was a time when to build and run a model on a large enough population, we would build it, we'll test it, we'll go watch a movie. By that time, probably it has run on a 1 million user database. Now, the expectation of that is probably a few milliseconds. So that's how the processing has evolved. That's why AI is possible. That's why this entire conversation that we are having today is possible. And that defines what kind of use cases over the life cycle can you really influence using AI ML. So in the onboarding phases, a simple example of an ML use case or ML AI use case is how facial recognition works when we are validating images across multiple assets and properties. It could be something like how data is reconciled from multiple sources. So older implementations would have, I call for credit bureau data, I check for a few set of rules. I call for KYC data, I check for a few things. I ask you to upload your bank statements and I check a few other things. Now you can literally reconcile all of this in real time and thereby return a different response just because there's an anomaly somewhere in a trigger that needs to happen somewhere else. So that's changed. So onboarding is like collectively right now, I think there are about 15 different ML use cases that are implemented by most AI focused companies today who are trying to really kind of stretch the boundaries of how credit origination happens. Then you're talking about, and this might go to some of the other topics I believe that are being covered during different sessions, how alternate data is being brought into the ecosystem, what kind of third-party data assets provide a meaningful lift to the underwriting decisions and so on and so forth. I stress that to the second part, which is about what happens during the behavioral assessment of a customer over the life cycle. Can I give you newer credit products? Can I give you newer financial products based on that? Can I redesign the products that I have been giving today? All of that can be powered almost with minimal manual intervention using the modern AI/ML technologies. Your ability to identify first party, third party fraud is AI/ML driven. Your ability to predict the risk of default, which evolves over a life cycle. So your origination PD is different from what happens subsequently, right? Lifestyle, COVID was a great example and a great teacher for all of us, where almost all models that we had built went for a toss. We recalibrated. But even then, origination and life cycle were different problems that were AI/ML driven and newer interesting data sets driven. When it gets to the collection, churn, reactivation, very different set of use cases. And I think one of the problems that a lot of, we have seen a lot of even banks and fintechs and NBFCs deal with is, how do you bring the customer back after the first product is over? In many cases, it's about, somebody who was not being served by the mainstream. We gave them a loan. Now they are available for a large bank to kind of come and very conveniently underwrite and stuff. But your entire lifetime value hypothesis was built on being able to keep working with the customer over and over again. How do you build interventions which are able to do that? So that A/B testing mindset is very strongly MLAI driven. Um, I still feel that there's a lot of work left in our market for proper lifetime value estimations. When let's say you and I met for the first time today, is there a value, lifetime value to this relationship that is going to get built today? Our ability to model that historically was very limited, but right now data is not our excuse anymore. So that entire thing is still pending to be done. So lots of interesting, fascinating, I can talk for hours.
No, thanks for that, Amit. Maybe my question, another will be open for answer from the panel, will be like, with say account aggregator, we are got the data from almost all the regulators. I mean, we have got a lot of entities from where we can pull out the data, right? So now what we are, we will be building up on top of that, that remains the question, right? Because that is one of the most opportunity which can be tapped upon. So how do you see these opportunities being adopted by the market? If you want to take a shot,
So I think the account aggregator is a fantastic platform. I think what it does is it just democratizes the entire availability of data, and the control button of whom I should share the data with lies with the customer. I think that's the first thing that we can start with. See, earlier when you had to underwrite a pre-approved loan, right? So either you're a bank who is serving the customer with his salary account or current account, or in the gray area you're reading his SMSs, right? Now you don't need to do that, right? What data bank has, you also have. So it clearly levels the field for everyone to participate. It gives the control of who to share the data with and when to revoke that control with the customer. So brings in a lot of transparency on data privacy kind of issues. And I think it's fantastic, and it will help the entire ecosystem grow.
great. You want to add something, Amit?
I do.
Yeah?
I love it.
Yes.
I love account aggregator ecosystem for what it's, wherever we are today. It is probably, I haven't come across a single other parallel anywhere else. Across, the various countries we work in, or whatever my experience, I have not come across an enabling data ecosystem at the scale and coverage that AA promises to offer. So there is no comparable that I have in mind when I think about. Bureaus are a shadow of what account aggregator can deliver. We have a long way to go in terms of solving the UX issues. I just do not see why or how a customer will be comfortable generating 10 different OTPs to give 10 different consents. Some of those things have to be solved for. There's no, and part of it has to be driven by probably Sahmati with a little bit of push from the ministry and stuff, but the consent architecture itself has to change. And, we're talking about origination. But what really fascinates me is the applicability of it in early warning signals. And again, that value maximization. Today, a lender's ability to continually access data is very limited. And their interactions with the customer are once a month when I call for collections. But suddenly, with the right kind of consent, I actually understand what's happening in your life. What other payments you are taking. Are you becoming over leveraged suddenly? Can I step in and say offer refinancing opportunities because I actually understand your credit behavior better because you've been with me for the last 2 years. So maybe I can offer a better product. There's so many possibilities of that data over a period of time, across industries, across sectors. Friction, we still need to solve for. We still need to push the FIPs a little more. But we're getting there.
Yeah. So that also opens up for the alternate data sources as you mentioned. So that will also help a lot in that section. Yeah. So maybe if you want to talk something about on the collection or the risk management part, how AIML is helping out there to build the use cases. Likewise, in the collection or the in the part when to identify with the uses of alternate data to identify the delinquency management are the typical use cases which we have seen people are building in. Yeah, that's right. So, any questions from the participants or the audience? We are open for. Any questions there? No, no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, with that, I would like to thank all of you to be there with us and share your insights into this. So, and thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for
Thank you
being.
so much, everyone.
Yeah.